The sixth generation of consoles, most notably the PlayStation 2 and the original Xbox, saw a pretty fascinating battle on the virtual ice rink in terms of hockey video games between Electronic Arts and Sega Sports. Electronic Arts, of course, most well known for its NHL hockey series, whereas Sega Sports was most well known for its 2K series of sports games, including NHL 2K. NHL 2K3 made its debut for the original Xbox, the PlayStation 2, and the GameCube in 2002, and with it, it rolled out some ESPN-style graphics presentation while still employing some no-name announcers that sounded legitimate and did a decent job. The game ran at 60 frames per second across all consoles and was definitely simulation aspected. On the other end of the spectrum, we had Electronic Arts and NHL 2003, which was basically a retooled version of NHL 2002. It was very arcade feeling, had a lot of over-the-top funny commentary that sometimes the jokes would hit and sometimes it didn't. There were some new additions here and there, like in-game stories that would talk about what was happening on the ice, but by and large, it felt more arcade style, and for a lot of fans of the sport, it started to become annoying at this point, and hardcore fans were starting to gravitate a bit more towards the NHL 2K side of the things. For the 2004 sports year, ESPN NHL Hockey added even more features and attracted more fans. On the other end of the ice, NHL 2004 from Electronic Arts threw away all of the arcade action and all of the over-the-top commentary and got back to its roots with a more simulation-style game. It didn't pick up a lot of fans yet at this phase, but you could see the direction that EA was going in as they were trying to catch Sega, at least in terms of critical acclaim. That brings us to the 2005 sports year, and that's where this particular episode of Unsealed is going to start. We're going to be taking a look back at the 2005 sports year on the ice, and then we'll be taking a look at the 2006 sports year on the ice and noticing a big tilting of the ice towards one particular publisher. But before we get ahead of ourselves, let's take a look at perhaps the most well-known games of 2005 on the ice, starting with NHL 2K5, which was released by Sega Sports and by Take-Two. What was happening at this point was Sega was looking to offload its sports franchises, and Take-Two had picked this up. What was also notable is that this game right here, as fully featured as it is, only ran for $20 US. To get a full hockey game for $20, much like NFL 2K5 was a fully fledged football game for $20, was a huge boost to the budget, and while it didn't necessarily help in terms of sales, it certainly got these games on the map, and there was a lot of content to be had here. This being the Canadian version, there are some extra things that are here just for Canadian fans, such as the Heritage Classic, for example. This game has Gary Thorne and Bill Clement on commentary, which were still synonymous with ESPN at the time. ESPN broadcast before they dumped the NHL. This game is fantastic. If you have a PlayStation 2 or an original Xbox, you should have this in your collection if you like hockey games. That's bar none. But we've already opened this. This is one that we opened in a past episode of Unsealed. Electronic Arts made their biggest move to date against Sega Sports with NHL 2005, a game that hockey fans actually started to gravitate back to just a little bit, because this was more of a wholesale change back to simulation, and using Electronic Arts trademark accessibility was easy to play for any particular fan of the sport, whether you were a hardcore sim fan or whether you were just a casual fan that wanted to put some pucks in the net. This was the game for you. There was more team management. There were some gameplay additions. There was online play as well. There was a lot to like about this game, and this is where the tide started to turn. But honestly, NHL 2K was still far out in front, at least in terms of critical acclaim at this point. There was one other contender in the 2005 sports year, and that's where the unsealing begins. I'd like to draw your attention to Gretzky NHL 2005, which should really be called NHL Face-Off 2005, but there was a major rebranding. The NHL Face-Off series for the PlayStation 2 had fallen way out of favor after launching pretty poorly out of the gate with NHL Face-Off 2001, and then after another try to get the series back on track in 2003, 989 decided to just dump the series entirely and go back to the drawing board. The results of going back to the drawing board are this game and one more that will open shortly. Play the great one is what the back of the case promises. You can see some screenshots here. We'll go over what some of the features are before we get it open. Just to let you know, this is a brand new copy of the game, of course, with the ID sticker still on the top. This was back when PlayStation was still putting these on there. It wouldn't be long, however, before these would start to disappear. Skate Gretzky style, pursue the Stanley Cup or the World Cup of Hockey Championship as the great one from his playing days in the NHL and Team Canada. So we're starting to see a little bit that, or a lot a bit, that this is all about Wayne, and that's not a bad thing, as Wayne has had his own hockey games in the past, most notably Wayne Gretzky's 3D Hockey for the Nintendo 64, and also Wayne Gretzky in the NHLPA All-Stars for the Genesis and Super Nintendo. The Gretzky Challenge is here. Can you play like the great one? Try and break one of Gretzky's 60-plus NHL records and earn points to unlock hidden items, including jerseys, teams, cheats, and more. Gameplay you can't get anywhere else. Exclusive licensing with Wayne Gretzky brings you authentic hockey and insights from number 99. Build your hockey club into a dynasty with the exclusive AHL license featured in a deep and detailed franchise mode. Yes, for the first time, the American Hockey League is being introduced in an NHL game, and for someone like me, who has an AHL affiliate right down the road in Springfield, Massachusetts, this was an absolutely phenomenal ad. I'm a big AHL hockey guy, so this is definitely an attractive feature for me. Rivalry mode gets personal. Play your biggest rival in up to 100 games and record lifetime stats in over 50 categories. The ultimate test to see who's best, you or your bitter rival. Settle in online, so there's online play here. Get on the ice. You can actually use the iToy USB camera. If you remember what the iToy looks like, it is literally a little camera that you put on top of your television set, and you can take your picture. The images really weren't that great, but it was still a novelty idea back in the day. So that's what we've got here. We're going to go ahead and we're going to open this up and take a brief look at it before we move to the 2006 sports year. And as you can tell, this is going to be one of those bonus linked episodes, so I hope that you're strapped in for what will be a fun ride. Let's go ahead and open this up. And we will take a look at what is on the inside. Here we go. Okay, and there's a lot of stuff here, so we'll get to it in a second. So first of all, we have the Gretzky disc right here. We also have a warranty card and a manual. We're going to, of course, take a look at those like we do in every episode. That'll go up there. All right. So this is still PlayStation Underground, which I miss very, very much. This reminds me of like a game show host little flip card with questions on it. I think I've gone over this before, but just really quickly, after they get your basic user information, your address, city, state, zip code, how many PlayStation 2 games do you currently own? Unfortunately, they don't have 1,000 listed because that's almost where I am now. How many PlayStation 2 games do you plan to purchase in the next 6 months? Not too many, not anymore, not for me. What types of PS2 games do you prefer? You have action, adventure, children's, extreme sports, fighting, music, puzzle, racing, RPG, shooter, sports, and strategy. That's a big list right there. What type of internet connectivity do you have? Now remember, back in the mid-2000s, broadband was getting out there, but not everyone had it just yet, so internet dial-up was still a thing. And do you own a network adapter for the PS2 for online gaming? I never went online with my PS2. I never had any interest in doing so, so the answer from me was no. All right, let's take a look at the manual, shall we? This is what the manual looks like right here. We also have an ad on the back for the USB headset, which is pretty much part and parcel with online gaming these days, but this was a new thing back then. The instruction manual is in color, which is nice. We have some screenshots here as well as some ways to play the game or information on how to play the game. The manual is actually pretty stacked with stuff. We have a manual that's more than 30 pages in length. We have an ad here for a McFarlane Gretzky figure, which is very nice. We also have a list of music in this game. And the music in this game, now for me, hockey music has always been rock and roll, which is one of the reasons I like the sport. Whenever you go to a hockey arena, while you do get a mixture of music here and there, there's generally more rock music played than anything else. So in this game, we have some Switchfoot, we have some Von Bondies, which is also from an EA MVP game. Crossfade is here, which I like. Earshot's here. Blue Oyster Cult's Godzilla is here. Chronic Future is here. Drowning Pool is here with Step Up. And Thrice is here as well. So if you like mid-2000s new metal, like I do, for some reason, and I know you're laughing at me right now, this is definitely a game that you can play. Now, unfortunately, this game, well, I got to be honest, is not very good. While it is very arcade style, it feels a little bit like NHL 2002 or 2003. Visually, it's not a winner, although Doc Emmerich and Darren Pang return with commentary, which I always like. But there's just something about the gameplay that feels off, that really didn't get cleaned up from the earlier NHL face-off games. And that's too bad, because the presentation here is okay, although the frame rate is a little bit slower than I would like. It's not quite 60 frames per second, which is something I notice. But the game can be had brand new for less than $10. And if you like AHL teams like I do, this is a fun way to look back. Plus, the Gretzky modes in the game add to that arcade flavor. And if you like Gretzky at all, if you're a big Gretzky fan, this is something you probably should own. So this was the dark horse in the 2005 sports year. Almost nobody bought this, I have to be completely honest. But I did. At least it was years later. And this is Gretzky NHL 2005. So for the 2006 sports year, now that we're getting into that, in third place between the three PS2 hockey games, we have the sequel to Gretzky NHL 06, which has Gretzky in his New York Rangers attire. Now everyone can be Gretzky, the game promises. New Wayne versus Wayne mode. Blur the line between arcade and simulation. Earn 99 time by executing big hits and combos to skate with the great one on the ultimate power play. So again, this game is making no bones about its arcade leanings. New team chemistry. Earn player and team attribute bonuses by sharing the puck, playing Great D, and lighting the lamp. Expanded rivalry mode. Choose between two types of rivalries and play up to 101 games while tracking every stat imaginable. So now it's not 50 games anymore, it's 101. AHL licensing returns. Skate with more than 500 AHL players in all 27 teams. Again, someone like me who's an AHL fan, that is fantastic. Updated NHL action, new look, new rules, new ice, downloadable rosters. So if you have your PS2 online, you could download new rosters to incorporate all recent transactions. And this, again, is what the back of the case looks like. The graphics are a little bit better, admittedly, this particular time around, but unfortunately, the gameplay doesn't quite measure up. Let's go ahead and get this open. There we go. And we'll take a look at the manual here really quick. Again, just like its predecessor, Gretzky NHL 06 can be purchased brand new for less than $10. Gretzky fans will probably want to get it. AHL fans will probably want to get it. But for everyone else, it's probably an easy pass. When we open up the case, again, just like 05, we have the same look. We have the manual and the warranty card plus the disc. So we'll take out the extras here. There we go. And I think the warranty card is pretty much the same. There's some added things. I'm not going to go over them for the sake of time here, but there's a bit more to fill out. Of course, you still had to put the stamp on it because Sony was cheap, but that's okay. In terms of the manual, we have, again, just like the front of the case, we have Gretzky in his Ranger blue, red, and white. We have an ad on the back for NBA 06, which is another sports game from Sony's first-party studios that bombed, unfortunately. And when we open up the manual again is in color, which is a nice feature. Let's see if they list the music here. Again, music is just one of the things I tend to talk about, but nobody else really does care about, at least that much. No, not much here, at least in terms of music credits, but that's okay. Can take a look at the fighting engine, for example, here. Talking about some of the rules, some of the infractions. Icon passing is here. This gives you an idea, and it's going to be tough to see a little bit what the gameplay on ice and what the presentation looks like. Unfortunately, again, while the presentation is good, while Doc Emmerich and Darren Pang again do a very good job with presentation, the gameplay is where it counts, and unfortunately, the Gretzky games just don't have it. I do like some of the arcade leanings, but if you're looking for an arcade-style hockey game, you want to go with NHL hits instead. That's unfortunately just the way that goes. So that was your third place finisher for hockey games for the PS2 in the 2006 sports year. Now, something major happened in the 2006 sports year, which really helped to tilt the ice in the favor of one particular competitor. The ESPN license, after being synonymous with Sega Sports for a long period of time, was now gone. So Take-Two Interactive had to go back to the drawing board with this presentation and struggled a little bit, at least out of the gate. What we have here is we have NHL 2K6, which looks remarkably bland by comparison. And we take a look on the back, it does promise us that it is the #1 rated NHL game, and we have a list of features here. But this was not the biggest hockey game of 2006, and we'll explain why in a minute. So, the pinnacle of hockey video gaming, promises IGN. Pro Control with revolutionary combo passing and shooting controls to let you exploit every inch of the offensive zone. Enforcer system, throw opponents off their game and actually lower performance ratings with physical play. That's kind of a cool concept. Pure motion animations, hundreds of new NHL caliber animations, including spectacular saves and goal by this guy right here, Marty Turco. All new commentary from Bob Cole and Harry Neal. If you're Canadian, you'll like these guys a lot. If you're not Canadian, you may not be familiar with these guys. You're probably still more familiar with Gary Thorne and Bill Clement, so this feels like a little bit of a step backwards. Maximum goaltending. Make swift, intuitive saves when it counts the most with a quick tap of the right analog stick. And on-the-fly coaching. You can also adjust your style of play while the action is going on. Visually, it's okay. It's not going to win any awards, but we have to remember that for the 2006 sports year, we're in 2005, and the Xbox 360 is making its debut. The PlayStation 3 would be making its debut the following year. So we're kind of at the end of life for the sixth generation of consoles at this point. Let's go ahead and open this up, and we'll take a look at the manual on the inside. Here we go. And I paid pretty much what the price was on the front. You saw like an $8 price tag. I paid like $9, I think, for this. When we open it up, we have a thick manual, and we have disc art that matches the game. We'll take the manual out, and we will look at it really quickly. Check out the 2K6 lineup. And at this point, with Sega Sports out of the picture, this is where 2K Sports became the de facto brand that it is today. When we open up the manual, unfortunately, it's in black and white. And one thing about the manual I don't like, it is all words. Think about a wall of text, and that is what this is. There are no pictures to show you at all. It is all words. And not only is it all words, it is all words, and it's 45 pages of all words. So you're probably not going to be wanting to read this manual from front to back. This game is very good. I'm not going to say that it's a bad game at all, but it feels very samey, and it feels a little bit of a step down because the presentation takes a big step backwards. That, of course, because ESPN was no longer affiliated with 2K Sports. So this was when the presentation had to be built from the ground up. And unfortunately, with the NHL series, they were never able to recover the presentation never really recovered, even going on to the 7th generation of consoles before 2K Sports eventually gave up on the NHL license, which is too bad. So that means we have one competitor left, and this is where the ice shifted back in the direction of Electronic Arts and would never change again. Here is NHL 06 with Vinny Lecavalier on the front. This game, if you have not played it, is a lot of fun and gets back to some of the things that made NHL 94 a lot of fun to play. The rush is back, is what it promises. You can mess around with the all-new player editor. There's realistic puck momentum, and there are some highlight reel goals you can create. We'll take a look at some of the features as well. All new EA Sports skill sticks. So now for the first time, you can use both the left and right analog sticks to control the player and the shooter on the ice, which is a big deal. EA Sports RPM physics, RPM standing for realistic puck momentum dynamics. This is introduced for the first time here. You can knock the water bottle off the top of the net, which is kind of cool. Classic D control is here. All new momentum skating is here. The creation zone is here. And you can play NHL 94 here. Yes, there is an emulated version of NHL 94, the Sega Genesis version, which is playable here. And while you can't save your progress, it is always fun to be able to get back to NHL 94, and the emulation is quite good. Let's go ahead and open this up as we bring this bonus-length episode to a close. When we open up the case, we have not very creative box art here, or disc art and manual art, but that's okay. And we also notice at this point that EA's manuals are starting to get thinner and thinner. This is like really thin, like paper thin. The manual is only, is that right? 9 pages long. That's it. But unlike the 2K6 manual, there's at least a picture here that you can look at, even if it's just one. I think there might be two. Nope. One picture is all you get. That's it. There's information here about Dynasty mode as well. Exhibition, season, world tournament. There's a free-for-all mode with 2 mini games featuring only 1 net and 1 goalie. NHL Retro is here. This game is fun to play, and one of the reasons for that is because it is fast. NHL is supposed to be the fastest game on ice, right? So by bringing the speed back, much like NHL 94, NHL 96, NHL 98, we always seem to have the better hockey games in even years, don't we? And the game is absolutely phenomenal. If for no other reason, of course, than being able to play NHL 94 without having to buy a Genesis to do so, but also just playing the game itself. It is fast. It really straddles the line between arcade and simulation very well, and being able to make adjustments and settings to tilt the balance either way makes the game very playable for either casual fans or for hardcore fans. And this is unfortunately where the NHL 2K series began its downward trend. NHL 2K7, 2K8, 2K9 really never caught up with what EA was doing. EA was doing all of the innovating at the time and really had captured the fan base and would not relinquish them. In fact, I believe it was NHL 07 or 08, I have to remember which of the 2 years, that the AHL license wound up in EA's lap, and they took advantage of that and have not relinquished it to this day. In fact, I still spend a lot of time in my free time playing NHL 20 as the Springfield Thunderbirds, and I play that almost exclusively for the AHL stuff, so I find that to be pretty cool. So that is the story of the rise of one franchise and the fall of another. It is too bad, as the ESPN NHL 2K franchise was great, had great presentation, great gameplay, very simulation aspected, lots of other things to do both on and off the ice, and it's sad to have seen it fall by the wayside. But on the plus side, as you've seen, the degree of competition raised EA to a new level, made them realize that there were some changes that needed to be made in order to get back into fans' good graces. They did that, and then some, and now have been at the top of the heap ever since. If you've played any of these games, I'd love to hear from you in the comments below. Feel free to do so. In any event, whether you leave a comment or have just been watching. I really do appreciate you taking the time to check out my work. Until the next time, my friends, take care of yourselves and each other, and we will see you next time.